I'm joined on today's episode in September by registered retirement consultant Jason Pollock. Well, made it through the summer.
Summer's gone.
The hot weather.
Yeah, it was a great summer, though, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. I mean, a little bit of crazy rain here and there.
Yeah,
but
lots of
that,
rain.
I think I put my my sprinkler system on this year about 3 or 4 times maximum. So I'm happy to say there was a nice savings on the water bill, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Hey, on today's episode, we're going to talk about a topic that I think is in the news every day. Everybody's talking about it. It's Canada's housing crisis. It's a national challenge, Jason. And I've got a great set of slides here and talking points we're going to get into today. But, you know, Canada right now is grappling with a severe housing crisis. Skyrocketing prices and limited supply are affecting cities across the nation. This crisis impacts affordability, social equity, and economic stability. And, you know, everybody you talk to is just wondering, how am I going to get into this market one day? It is a really, really difficult endeavor. I think back 20 years ago, 30 years ago when I started, homes were about 100 to 150,000, and now they're 5 to 10 times that. But I do want to talk a little bit, Jason, here about some of the rising home prices over the past 20 years or so. But from about 2000 to about 2010, we had steady growth in home prices, outpacing inflation, but still manageable for many people. You could acquire a home back in 2000 to 2010. Between 2010 to 2020, you had an acceleration of price increases, especially in the urban centers. Toronto, Vancouver, prices were going up fast and furious. From 2020 to present, we've seen incredible surge in prices, and those were fueled by the low interest rate years of 2021, 22, and of course, changing lifestyle post-pandemic. I will say in Niagara in the last year or so, we're seeing some deflation, which is nice to see it come back down again. Homes over $1 million, prices have come down a small bit. And right now in the Niagara region, there's over 3,000 listings, and there's many, there's more sellers than buyers. But we are in a challenging time for home buyers.
For sure. And if interest rates remain high, then we're still going to see a bit of deflation. But it's interesting how most people don't realize that that real estate prices can come down. Everybody thinks it's always going to go up, but we're in a time now where if you bought something, let's say 2 or 3 years ago, you might be underwater these days.
It's tough. Eh? I mean, you get caught up in that whole frenzy from 2021, 2020, 21, 22, where everybody thought their home was going to, be this never-ending growth investment, but we've seen things stabilize. I said to my wife just a few days ago, I said, don't expect home prices to go up much more for what type of home we own in the next 5, 10, 15 years, because incomes have to catch up to rising home prices.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why the prices went up so much in the early 2000s to basically to now is we're having a supply shortage. And there's a couple of reasons why we're having supply shortage. Number one, there's limited new construction. We hear about it. Niagara's famous for the red tape that it takes, the zoning restrictions, the lengthy approval processes. It hinders definitely the housing developments. That's number one. Number two, we've got labor shortages. We're always looking for skilled labor, and as much as people don't think it's skilled, there's definite skill in the drywalling, in all the construction of these new homes. So there's definitely a lack of skilled labor. Number three is land scarcity. Again, here in Niagara, in St. Catharines, we're landlocked. There's not a lot of places where we can build, so now we're building up. But in urban areas are facing this challenge. They're trying to find suitable land for residential construction. Number four, material costs. We know inflation is out of control these days. The cost of lumber is going up. The cost of everything is going up. So that definitely hinders a bit of the supply. And the last reason why there might be some supply shortage is we've got an influx of immigration. So we brought in a lot of immigrants, and the housing can't catch up. And then not only is it the housing, but it's also things like we've got to build the roads, we've got to build the sewer system. So there's a bit of time lag from building the homes when we bring people in.
You know, it's a great point, and I remember hearing it a while ago on a podcast, or I read somewhere that talked about when you bring immigrants into this country, they step into the lower end housing supply. And then the lower end housing supply moves up to the, next level of housing supply. And then everybody kind of takes one step up. And then as immigration keeps funding it, we keep moving up the housing scale. That's not happening right now because nobody is in the position to keep doing that. And the other thing too is, you got a lot of people that are, that can't qualify for mortgages. There's a lot of reasons behind it. Yep. Next key point here on the some of the concerns in Canada's housing crisis is the affordability crisis. So you've got income versus housing costs. So average incomes have not kept up with the rapidly rising housing cost. It's amazing, Jason. You start thinking about housing costs in the past 5, 10, 15 years going up even 5, 6, 7, 8%. Well, if incomes don't follow that same path, obviously the gap is growing and widening, right? So Canadians are struggling to find affordable homes in their community. Number 2 on the affordability crisis issue is the rental market pressure. So as home prices keep moving higher, people are being pushed into the rental market. And of course, supply and demand. If there's 10 places for rent, but there's 30 or 40 wannabe renters in that space, the landlord can just keep pushing up his or her price. And number 3 here on the affordability crisis is the debt burden. Canadians right now are taking on significant mortgages to pay for these homes. And again, that higher mortgage, which maybe puts them at a breaking point financially, it's risking other things like they've got car payments, they've got to pay for food, they've got to pay for their kids. So there's a massive debt burden on these homes, and it's playing forward on other areas of people's lives as well.
Yeah, and a few years ago, it wasn't such a big deal when the interest rates were so low, but now when you're renewing your mortgage at double or triple what you did 5 years ago, then like you said, most of your income is meant to pay the mortgage instead of all the other things.
Well, I had a client call me a few weeks ago. Their mortgage renewed. They're hardworking people, middle-class people. Their mortgage went up by $1,700 a month. And the comment was, how do we find it? Right. What can we cut? Right. And when you go through their balance sheet, well, you can't cut the food cost that much. I mean, food is food. You can't cut the cell phone bill. You can't cut your insurance bill. Like, there's things you can't cut. Yeah. And the comment was, I've gone through my balance, but there's nothing I can cut. So where am I going to find that $1,700? It's a difficult time.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And one of the things that we're finding too is there's quite a geographic disparity. And just some numbers that we found. Toronto today, an average home price is about $1.15 million. Vancouver's $1.25 million, so just slightly ahead of Toronto. Montreal, Calgary are in the $450,000 to $500,000. So again, there's quite a bit of disparity, and that's one of the reasons why people are moving away from the big cities and into places like Niagara, which are, of course, increasing the prices. So it's quite a challenge that we're having.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Niagara is, but I'm guessing Niagara is probably in the $600,000 to $700,000 range, with obviously some pockets that are much more higher end. Yeah. One of the other big things here in the Canada's housing crisis, the national challenges, social and economic impact. So there's 3 things that fall into this category. One is the wealth gap. So, the housing crisis widens the divide between homeowners and renters. And, you think about this as owning a home, you get your home, that over 10, 20, 30 years you pay it off. Now it becomes an asset. Where if you're renting for 30 years, you've paid off somebody else's mortgage. So the homeowner has a home worth $500,000 or $600,000, $1 million. He or she's fine. The renter has nothing. There's the urban exodus right now. We know that the high cost of living in Toronto, and you're looking back at the average home in Toronto is $1.15 million. it is driving people to smaller communities around the country. And of course, there's the economic strain, housing costs limit consumer spending in other sectors, potentially slowing down economic growth. So this whole housing crisis has multiple branches that it plays into.
Yeah, and so what's the government doing about it?
Right.
What's the government's intervening? We hear about it, like you said, every day. The provincial government, the local governments, and of course the federal government. They've got a few key things that they're trying to enforce and hopefully increase the supply and lower this crisis. Number one, what they're doing is they have a first-time home buyers incentive. So things like government programs offering shared equity mortgages to help new buyers. One of the things they did a few years ago was the foreign buyer ban. So there's a temporary prohibition on foreign home purchases just to curb some speculation. That plays in Vancouver, Toronto, those areas skyrocketed because of a lot of the foreign buyers. They've increased supply incentives. Of course, now the provincial government and the federal government are pushing cities and regions to, they're giving them incentives to build more homes. So that's another way that the government's helping. And of course, rent control measures. So, you had mentioned it earlier, landlords are not allowed to increase rents just exponentially. They do have, in Ontario, they have some rent control just to protect the tenants from excessive increases.
One of the things I notice a lot is what I'm seeing a lot of new construction, it's high rises, yeah. Right? So everywhere you look, there's a high rise going up 5, 6, 7 stories. The one thing I noticed too is they're not building 1,200 square foot units where you can have 2 or 3 bedrooms for a family. They're building 500 square foot units. So they are building, however, they're building to small singles, maybe a couple can live there. But yeah. What do you do once you outgrow that 750 square foot condo and you've got a couple of kids, right? So yeah. That's going to be a real headwind moving forward. And finally here, future outlook and solutions. Number one is we've got sustainable development. So what they're focusing on is eco-friendly, high-density housing to maximize land use and reduce the urban sprawl. I prefer to see them take some land that's just doing nothing and build some nice bungalows. Maybe you build 1,200 square foot bungalows for families. You've got policy reform. So they are, the government is streamlining zoning laws and the approval processes to hopefully accelerate the housing development. You've got innovation in construction. What I'm seeing right now too, Jason, is they're embracing a new modular prefab construction methods. One of my good friends is building some homes in Fort Erie Ridgeway, and they're using, I think it's a Scandinavian type style home where it looks different, but however, they can build it relatively inexpensive. You can get into it at a decent price point, and the builder can make a small profit at the same time. And fourthly here is community-centric planning, so building mixed-use neighborhoods that prioritize affordability and the quality of life. The bottom line, I think, for our clients and for listeners is I'm not sure this is going away. So, one of my concerns might be is families are going to have to start helping families. I've noticed in Niagara where I live, they're building these multi-generational homes, 3-generational homes. There is some creative stuff happening. I'm just hoping that at some point we can see interest rates fall back down a little bit, hopefully some higher wages, and people's affordability to enter is more in line to where things were 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, agreed. Or your kids will just go to the Bank of Dad.
Bank of Dad. Yeah. The Bank of Dad's tired of lending with no payback on the loan. Exactly. Jason Pollock, thanks again for coming in to the show. Really appreciate it.